Welcome, 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 week 3. I hope all is going well wherever you are. My name is Jocelyn Williamson. I'm the instructor for this course. And let me just get this straightened up there. I hope all is going well. Like I said, I know some people have been having some problems with different technical things and other things going on in your lives. I appreciate you communicating. Letting me know really does let me know that the work's coming in. I have, if I have no idea what's going on with you, then I'm not sure whether or not you're staying in the class and things like that. So, just let me know. We are down to just a couple weeks though, so keep that in mind. We are in week 3. Let me just dive into some of the information. You do have IntelliPath this week. You can take notes. I know that it depends on how you're doing it. If you're doing it on your phone, it's going to be a lot harder. If you're able to work on a computer, you can copy and paste text into a single document. If you have an extra screen, that's even easier. And basically, you can just be reading, and when you see things that are important to you, copy it into a Word document, for example, and that way you can reference it when you're answering the questions. Also, remember that you can revise the previous week's work. I think everybody knows that. I keep repeating it, but I just want everybody to be real cognizant of the fact, real aware that you can revise the work. Now, for the discussion board, we're talking about pricing, right? We know that companies switch things up to try to get their target market, those people that they're trying to grab to listen. And so they try to figure out, how do I make money and still bring in the customers, and how do I balance that? We have considerations with our pricing. We don't want to go below what it costs for us to do business, but we know that there's a ceiling that the customers will pay. And how do we find that good balance? And that's something that we really seek to do. In week 3, we have 2 paragraphs, not a lot, just two paragraphs due on that paper that we started in week 2. If for some reason you did not start the paper in week 2, then you would have 4 paragraphs due. But for week 3, we have 2 paragraphs due. For those students who have not submitted any work, please, just give us something to work with. Getting something in is better than nothing. This is one of those situations, we sometimes don't want to complete work because we're like, it's not going to be perfect. It's better. I guarantee you, it's better to have something in than nothing in. And it does need to be in your own words. There have been, I'm sorry, I keep itching my nose. I have an itch. It's one of those things where just use your own words to describe what you read. That's going to get you more points than copying something. And I say that because I cannot accept something that's fully copied. It needs to be your own words. Okay, so what are the 2 paragraphs this week? We're doing 1 paragraph about what products and services do they really sell. Let's have some details here, right? Do they offer any services? Do they offer anything additional? Do they have warranties? Do they have something delivery? What do they have in addition or also, with their products? And what about the brand itself? Think about how strong Nike is, right? When you wear a Nike shirt or a Nike hat, you are advertising the brand. Why? Why do people want to wear branded stuff like that? What does that say about the strength of the brand, the interest of the brand? And think about if the company you've selected has any brand strength. It may not, and that's fine, but it's worth a sentence or 2. Remember, you only are required 1 paragraph. Now, if you want to write 3, go for it, right? I mean, if you think about, for example, Apple has strong brand strength. They have services they provide, right? They have the iCloud, so they have like the cloud service where they hold your files. They have Apple has the music streaming services. They have Apple TV, right? All of these are services that they provide. That's a paragraph in itself. the brand, the services, and then the products. And then the products they offer are so many, right? You've got the computer, you've got the AirPad or the iPad, you have the AirPods, you have all the phones. So there's a lot of things, not to mention all of the accessories. Each of these could be a paragraph unto themselves if you wanted to write that much. I'm fine with more writing, but minimally you should have one strong paragraph on product. The second paragraph is pricing. Typically, what I would recommend here is you think about how is this company's price in relation to the competition? Are they more expensive? Are they less expensive? Are they all the prices about the same, right? If so, then how are they making themselves different? That's a good question. But you want to think about, are they bundling things together? Are they offering discounts? Do they have seasonal sales? What are they doing about pricing? Maybe they never have a sale. What does that say? Things like that are to be considered. Again, you're talking one paragraph. One. A lot of times, because I think everybody has pretty much picked what I would call international companies, right? Most of you have selected really big companies, which is great. So if you type in the name of the company and you type in pricing in Google, or price changes or sale or something like that in Google, you may be able to find that somebody has written an article about it. The library has a lot of great resources too. And the library's resources are actually better than Google, because anything that's going to be in the library, I would most of the time recommend that you really quote them. So these are things that you want to be thinking about in relation to price. And today I am going to be talking about pricing, and I'm going to be talking about details and how we think about pricing. All of these things are going to be discussed in the lecture today. But if you're not going to watch any more of today, this is it. You only wanted to learn about the paper. This is what you should be focusing on. I made notes when I graded the assignments you had, so you should have found some information about format or other things, but you do need to write 2 paragraphs. If you didn't submit anything last week, then I would try to encourage you to write all 4 paragraphs today. A paragraph is at least 4 sentences. So to break it down to the smallest possible variable, it would be 16 sentences. Okay? Do check grammar and do make sure that whatever you're submitting is grammatically correct. If you have questions, maybe ask a friend to read it out loud. I personally find reading something out loud helps because I can hear it sometimes better than I can read it. So that might be something that would help you. If you are truly and utterly stumped and struggling with writing a paper altogether, please use the Smart Thinking Tutoring. And I wanted to remind you about where that is. You go to the Learning Center and Tutoring, right? And you click on the link, Tutoring and Smart Thinking Services, right? And then a new window will log in. So you want to go to Learning and Center. Again, it's easier on a computer, but if you don't have a computer, you'll navigate to the Learning Center and Tutoring and go from there. There are learning centers that have some writing information as well. You click on Writing Centers, you'll see that there is an APA guide. If you're wondering about that, there's video tutorials in the MS Office Learning Center that will help you with Microsoft Word. So if you're struggling with Microsoft Word, there's also the Writing Learning Center. You can click on that, a new page opens up, and you can see that there is some information here to help. So please dive in and take a look at that. And that's a super boring slide, and we're moving on. Okay. When we think about our companies, you're going to probably find some information such as here you see something about Chinese fast food services, but you can see that really what this is about is, let me get a little pointer, maybe that will help. Laser pointer. You can see here, right? McDonald's in 2012, but McDonald's has 2.3% of the fast food market in China. So this is information that you might use when you're writing your paper. So when you see a graph like this is information that you could use. You could write, you know, in 2012, McDonald's had 2.3% of the Chinese fast food market. That's not a lot. So there should be room for growth if you're, you know, McDonald's and trying to expand into China. And then you would list the source, right? That would be a reference that you would list. But this is an example of information that you might use. Remember, we think about our target market for just about everything we do, right? Target marketing is why we create the product we do, why we set the price we do, why we distribute the way we do, the promotions we use. Everything is trying to get the right person to see our ad at the right time. And they have to like the product, like the price, and be able to get to it. So that's why product, price, and distribution place is so important. So, you know, you think about, what do they do? Who are they? Where are they, you know, living? What types of hobbies do they have? What types of information? Are there prizes and giveaways that are used to excite people with pricing? Does that really make a difference? Where are they online? How are they connected? I'm bringing this up because I want you to realize that all of this can be tied into your paper. So think about, who is that company trying to sell to? What are they trying to do with their pricing, with their product design? Why do they choose the colors they do, for example? Why do they have the different features they have? These are all different things that companies have to think about as they develop their marketing plans. And so understanding the target market helps. I hope that makes sense. I want to help you to think about the different things related to the paper, right? And thinking about the target market for iPhones, they really like things to be super simple. They don't want to have to struggle to install apps or modify apps. If we were to compare Samsung and Apple, in general, Apple is considered an easier platform to work with, right? The target market, therefore, prefers that. They have a certain design and aesthetic. You know, how it looks and feels in the hand is a little different. Although now I think phones are getting more and more the same in some ways. But the point is that you think about your target market and you think about the design, you think about the price, you think about where is the product sold. Quick reminders. I didn't see a lot of these issues, but I have these slides. I wanted to remind you. Papers have 1-inch margins all the way around. A running header looks like this. You should have it at the top of each page. Every page should have a running header. So if you look at this other example, you can see the running header is on the second page, right? And you know, you need to have your name, your paper's name, the name of the university is the typical layout. I am trying not to be, you know, I'm trying to just grade you broadly on APA, but please be aware that as you move forward with your degree, people are going to get more and more specific about APA. It is a very specific format. And you can see here, you know, when you have little headers that divide areas. So in your case, you're going to have product, price, place, promotion, right? That'll be bold. You're going to see, you're going to indent the paragraph in. And a reference page, again, running header. These are just examples. You're going to have a page number. Hold on 1 second, please. Let me put myself on mute. Okay, so sorry about that. Little pause there. So you can see here that the references are listed alphabetically, and the second, third, fourth, these lines are tabbed in. This is what the format of your reference page should look like. I don't want you to get frozen because of format though. Please write your paper and then worry about your format. While format is a lot of points, it is really important to just work on getting the papers done. If you're having questions or concerns, please let me know. All right, so let's dive into talking about pricing. As you can imagine, Walmart, Walmart and Amazon are the two of the largest companies in the world. Walmart is the world's largest retailer. Amazon is the world's largest online merchant, and they are fighting for online supremacy, and they use prices as their form of battle. In the long run, winning the war will take more than low prices. The winner is going to be the company that delivers the best overall online experience, not to mention value for the money. So, you keep seeing more and more things being offered, easy returns, things like that. That is them battling each other very much so. Price is the amount of money charged, and you all know this, but I'm going to share. Price is the amount of money shared for a product or service. It is the sum of all of the values that a customer gives up to gain the benefits of using that product or service. How much am I willing to pay to have that item? Price is one of the most important elements that determines, a firm's market share and how profitable it's going to be, right? It's the only element that generates revenue. Everything else a company does costs money, right? It costs money to run promotions. It costs money to manufacture. It costs money to distribute the product, but I make money by determining my pricing. So it's pretty darn important. Here you can see a figure that is summarizing some of the major considerations that we think about when we're setting prices, right? And there are different pricing strategies. For example, customer value-based pricing, and I'm going to talk more about these. Cost-based pricing, competition-based pricing. Some of the more important things to keep in mind, which I mentioned before, is that if customers perceive that a product's price is greater than its value, they're not going to buy the product, right? If the company prices the product between or below what it costs to make it, meaning it cost me $5 to make this thing and I sold it for $4.50, I lost money. I can't do that, right? So those are the two extreme points, which I mentioned before. It's how low can I go? And what is the most that a customer will pay? And somewhere between there is that right balance of price. Now, when we look at different pricing strategies, and there are different ones, we have customer value-based pricing. This is using the buyer's perceptions of value as the key to pricing. So what do they consider a good value? Price is considered along with everything else. The company assesses customer needs, what they consider a good value, and then set a target price based on what the customer perceives as a good value. And there are two different ways of doing this: value-based pricing and good value pricing and value-added pricing. Good value pricing offers this combination of quality and good service at a fair price. This pricing method involves introducing less expensive versions of name brand products or lower price line products. It involves also redesigning existing brands to offer more quality for a given price or the same quality for less. And that's good value pricing. Value added means I'm attaching value added features and services to differentiate and then possibly charge a higher price. So we see that movie chains have done that, right? They've gone and they've created these premium movie theaters where you get some sort of customer service and you can serve some sort of drinks and stuff like that, right? That is considered a value added service. Here you can see a figure comparing value-added pricing and cost-based pricing. The costs are an important consideration, obviously, right? I got to know my costs when I'm setting prices, and cost-based pricing is often product-driven. The company designs what it considers to be a good product, adds up all the costs of making the product and sets a price that covers the cost plus a target profit. Value-based pricing reverses this process. The company first assesses the customer needs and value perceptions and then set a target price based on the customer values of perceptions. So cost-based pricing, I design my product. What are my costs? I set my price based on that. Before I design a product, I look at, all right, I'm planning on designing this. What are the customer needs and wants? How do I get that right price that's going to get them in the store, decide whether or not I can even make that product, and then design that product. A little different approach to doing business. So cost-based pricing involves setting prices based on the cost of producing, distributing, selling the product. Plus, obviously, I deserve a fair rate of return as the company. And I have some risk involved in making something. Companies with lower costs can set lower prices that result in smaller margins, but greater sales and profits. Other companies pay higher costs so they can add value and claim higher prices. You know, do you want to sell a bunch of an item at a really low profit? Or do I want to sell only a few items with a higher profit? If you have to do that kind of thinking to decide how to set your prices. And when we think about our company costs, in reality, there are two things that we think about with company costs. What are our fixed costs, which are things that don't change, right? These are always going to have to pay this price. So maybe you're renting a building to produce your product. The rent doesn't change whether you produce one item or a million items in that building, the rent is the same. So that's a fixed cost. Variable costs are those costs that are going to change with production. So for example, if I produce one item, it might cost me $1 in materials. Obviously, if I produce 10 items, it's probably going to cost me $10 in materials. So that's a variable cost. It's changing based on production. The total costs are everything together, fixed and variable, depending on where we are in production. And this is important to know. So the simplest pricing method is cost plus pricing or markup pricing. And that's adding a standard markup. So I'm going to add 10% to everything, for example. Cost me $5 to make this. I'm going to add 10% on top. That's my cost plus pricing, right? Sellers who are more certain about cost than about demand may do that. It's easy to do. By tying price to cost, sellers are simplifying the pricing. When all firms in the industry use this, the prices tend to be the same everywhere and price competition goes down. Now, another type of pricing approach, and I'm sharing this because I want you to realize there's a lot of different ways to set price. It's not just a simple thing. And I want you to think about how, if you had a company, what would you do and why? So break-even pricing is, or target return pricing. Here, the company tries to determine the price at which it's going to break even, right? Or make some target amount of money. And this is using a break-even chart. So let's look at this. And so imagine that you're making, little USB drives, okay, to save information on little data drives. And let's say your fixed costs to make that little USB memory card stick is $6. Let's just say every time we make one, I have a fixed cost of $5 per unit. Let me start over. Looking at this chart, I'm trying to talk and break it down, and I'm not looking at the chart. All right, so you have fixed costs for this company of $6 million. That's how much it costs me to have this huge factory, keep it up and running, and keep water running and all of the things that you need in the building, $6 million. To make these little USB drives, it's costing me $5 in material, variable costs, okay? And here you can see this pink line, right? This pink line is your variable cost. Every time I make an item, this pink line goes up because I'm making one. You can see here at the bottom of the chart, sales volume and sale in units. So as I'm making 600,000 of those, I have about 9 million in total cost. The blue line, which starts down here at 0, is my revenue, my money I'm making. Okay. Now this obviously comes from me setting a price, right? So let's say we're selling it for $15. All right. I'm going to break even at about where these two lines meet, where my revenue and cost meet. That is my break-even point. That might be a goal, but let's set a goal up here. Let's say I want to make about $2 million in profit, which these are really big numbers, but this is just to give you an idea. So I have to sell 800,000 USD little thingies for $15 a piece to get to that goal. So I looked at how much does it cost for me to keep the factory open? I looked at how much money do I make selling them at $15 a piece, right? And I break even, but then I have a target goal of making some profit. I have to decide, is this a good plan? Maybe this is the plan for the next year. Is this a good plan for my business? Now, how would you use this information? So for example, let's say last year you only sold 200,000 of your USBs. That's the max you've ever sold, is 200,000. For this, to make this profit, you need to sell 800,000. That's a lot. That's a big jump. So you want to really think, can my sales team do it? Is it possible? Is the target market big enough? This is why this kind of information is super useful. You want to think about, can I make that goal? If it was easy, if last year you sold, 900,000, then 800, piece of cake, no problem. We got this. But like I said, if you've never done it, you have to think this might not be a good plan for my company going forward. So that's a way to think about that. All right, I'm going to go through some more information now pretty quickly. That was a really important point that I wanted you to understand, because that will carry you forward with a lot of business concepts. Competition-based pricing involves setting prices based on your competitors' strategies, their costs, their prices, their market offerings. In assessing competitors' pricing strategy, the company needs to ask, how does the company market offering compare? How strong are the current competitors? What are their pricing strategies? So for example, Caterpillar makes this super heavy duty, high quality mining equipment, construction equipment, and it really dominates the market with strong pricing. Now, Komatsu is a direct competitor, and you can ask, why would somebody want to pay 500,000 for a Caterpillar bulldozer, and you can get the same sort of bulldozer from Komatsu for 420,000, right? Big numbers, but think about it, it's $80,000 difference. But Caterpillar will say, and I don't work in the industry, but I've heard, that $80,000, there's actually value in a Caterpillar. They have a product lifetime kind of warranty and durability. They have a history of lower lifetime operating costs, longer parts warranty. And for these type of pieces of equipment, that's really important. And so Caterpillar is able to have that strong brand name as a result. So 3 major pricing strategies include customer value-based pricing, cost-based pricing, competition-based pricing. And so good pricing is going to begin with a complete understanding of the value that the customers are looking for. And like I said, customers are setting the perception of how high you can go as far as pricing. Beyond customer value perceptions, costs, competitor strategies, all of these things are being thought about. The company also thinks about other factors. And that could be organizational goals or what's going on in the external environment, which we talked about in our week 2 paper. So pricing may play a really important role in helping to accomplish different company objectives at different levels. So price decisions can be coordinated with product design, distribution, promotion decisions to form a consistent and kind of effective integrated marketing program. So for example, a decision to focus on high performance, high quality, that probably means you're going to have to charge a higher cost, right? And usually at that level, you're expected to provide more support and more warranties and things like that. And so you may have to build for your resellers larger reseller margins in there. And companies a lot of times decide that positioning their products on price and then tailoring everything else may be the way they want to do business. And so what's our target cost, right? Target pricing starts with an ideal selling price, and then we work to get our company costs to that point. So if we think we're only going to sell this pen for 50 cents, that's all anybody's going to pay for this pen. We have to make sure we can manufacture the pen for 35 cents if we want to make any profit, for example. Other companies de-emphasize price, and they try to not necessarily focus on that as much, and that you see that with luxury brands. So like, it costs what it costs to bring in the soft leather and to have this fancy product. We're not going to focus on the price, we're going to focus on the quality. The price will be what it is. Management within the company has to decide how you're going to set prices, and companies handle pricing in a lot of different ways. In small companies, we see that prices are set by top management. In large companies, it's usually handled by divisional or product managers. In industries where pricing is a key factor, companies often have pricing departments to determine how to do this, and they work strongly with the marketing department. And before you set your prices, you need to understand what type of competition are we having. In pure competition, for example, you have lots of buyers and sellers trading a very uniform commodity. And in that case, we don't see that a single seller or buyer makes a big difference. If it's monopolistic competition, many buyers and sellers trading over a range of prices rather than a single price point. In an oligopoly competitive market, few large resellers. And so, for example, cell phone companies would be an example of that. And so they're going to be watching each other, and they're going to be working really hard to make sure that their pricing, is in tandem or working competitively against the competition. A pure monopoly is just that one seller. Your electric company is a monopoly. It could be a government regulated or a private unregulated monopoly, and pricing will be handled differently in each case. So as I mentioned, in an oligopoly market, for example, your TV provider options or your internet cable provider, they're directly trying to compete on price typically, because there's a few big companies offering products, and you got to make a decision, which one are we going to work with? And typically consumers do that based on price. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these tables, but I want you to know that we look at demand curves. So as price drops, demand goes up. So this is price on this side, right? High price, low price, and then this is how much we're selling. And so as the price goes down, so the demand typically goes up. So I sell more the cheaper the product is, right? If I sell the pen for 50 cents, I only sell 100 of them. But if I make the price 35 cents, maybe I sell 500 of them. So that's because more people can afford the product. So you have to decide as a company, and this is where understanding your costs make a big difference. How much does it cost to make the product? How much profit do we want to make? Can I sell more? Are there enough people out there to buy them? These are questions that you can have, but typically there's a curve, and we try to take a look at that. That said, there are some products that don't change much when the price changes. And when products change a lot, meaning they sell a lot more when the price goes down, we say they're elastic, like a rubber band, they're elastic. When they don't change very much at all, price went up by 25 cents, people are still buying it, then we say it's inelastic. It's not very rubbery. And an example of that might be milk, right? People are going to buy so many cartons of milk and they don't change brands that often. It may be diapers. There may be products that are very standard that changes in price while people don't like it, doesn't change the amount you sell that much. Expensive items, luxury items tend to be somewhat inelastic, except for the general economy. If the economy drops, then people stop buying luxury items. So that's because economic conditions have a strong impact on a firm's pricing strategies. You know, are we having inflation? Are we having recession? You know, obviously cutting prices and offering discounts makes things more affordable. But if you're a company and you start offering lots of discounts, this can be a bad thing too, because then customers will no longer pay regular pricing. If you have sales all the time, then that becomes your regular price. So you have to figure out how to do things. That's part of the reason why companies offer price tiers, right? Entry-level product, mid-range product, expensive product, right? They have these different price ranges because they don't necessarily want to have a sale all the time. Also, what's going on in the environment? How are resellers, how are responding to things? The government may have an influence. They may be increasing taxes or other concerns, or you may be a company that considers what's going on with societal concerns, such as being more green. You know, the company's internal strategy, you know, their product design, their distribution, their promotion, all of these things affect pricing. As I said, you're going to have impact from everything outside the market has a big impact on how we do business. When we bring out a new product, never before seen in the world, we tend to either do market skimming or market penetration. Market skimming is setting that high price to try to get people to buy it because it's new and exciting and I'm willing to pay more for that new product. Or I may have that new product and I'm like, oh, I'm not so sure people are willing to try it. I'm going to set the price really inexpensive because I think I can make my money if I sell high volume. And that sometimes is really useful. We've seen Samsung do this in India and Africa with the mobile device market, and they've had great success there. So that's an example of penetration pricing working well. So pricing is a dynamic process, and companies are designing pricing structure that covers all their products. They're going to adjust to different products based on, you know, are they new or are they not new? Now, there are specific product mix pricing strategies. So we sell a bunch of different products. So a product line pricing, if you hear that, that's the different steps to differentiate the costs between products and features and customer prices. So we have different product lines. We have optional products, you know, accessories that we buy. We have captive products. So for example, razor blade, if you buy a handle, a lot of times the handle will be a very reasonable price, but then when you want to buy those razor blades, they're more expensive. That is captive product pricing. You are a captive because you have that handle. We see this also with video game consoles, right? The price of the console is relatively reasonable and the games themselves expensive because you're captive now. Byproduct is setting a price for byproducts that you're able to make from, as you manufacture, you have things left over, you create other products, and that byproduct can be something you sell cheaper. Product bundling is just that. We bundle it all together and we sell it. Here's an example of captive product pricing, right? K-Cups. If you're drinking your coffee that way, you're trapped. You know, obviously there's different brands now, but in general, that is a captive product where you pay a higher price. And so companies are going to use the set of prices that are going to maximize profits from their whole total mix. So we look at all of these things as for all of our products, and we try to decide what's going to work out best for our company's organizational goals. Now, as I said, and again, I'm not going to dive into all of these. There are so many different ways to set up and offer discounts. We may have discounts in allowance pricing. A discount is a straight reduction in price on purchases. An allowance is promotional money that's paid in return for to feature the manufacturer's product. So trade-in allowances. If you hear about that when you go into a car dealership or something like that. In segmented prices, we sell a product or service at different prices. So, a happy hour or afternoon movie times or student pricing, or it's cheaper at this location. All of these things are segmented prices. It's the same product, but we're offering it cheaper to this segment of people. We're offering it cheaper to this because of this time. Things like that can make a difference. Think about an airplane. There you have product form pricing. So I'm on the same plane as the people in first class, but I'm back in economy class, and same plane, same things in general, but they pay a lot more for more legroom. But we're still getting to the same place. Psychological prices is how do people respond mentally to prices? People have reference prices, prices that they think about as a standard, and they use that as a kind of point of reference. And as I said, promotional pricing, lots of different ways you can do it: discounts, limited time offers, low interest financing, free maintenance. All of these are great tools to incentivize people to purchase. There's also geographical issues with pricing. So how do I get the product? This has become less of an issue because we see a lot more shipping options. But when it comes to shipping big containers and things like that, there are different things that we consider. And this ties into our pricing because it costs money to get the product to the consumer. Dynamic pricing is something we see online, and this is constantly changing. Online prices can change at any time. If you've ever tried to buy an airline ticket at 9 a.m. and then you go back in at 1 p.m. because you talk to your friends and you're like, okay, this is the plan, I'm going to buy this ticket, the price might have changed. And it's considered legal as long as the company is not discriminating based on age, gender, location, other characteristics. They can do that. So this is something that works for and against consumers. If you're really on it, it's great. Sometimes though, you've made a decision to purchase something and boom, suddenly the prices change. Amazon uses Price Check, which allows you to, with their mobile app, to allow people to try to keep up with changes when you're out in the public. You can snap the price of something and be able to keep up with whether or not Amazon is offering the best deal. And so companies market their products internationally. They have to decide how they're going to do that too. And that's a whole new set of challenges. Do I have the same price everywhere in the world, or do I change it based on the market conditions? And all of these different factors that you see listed here are going to play a big role as to whether or not they're going to set the prices the same everywhere in the world. And then, as I mentioned, all of these different ways of pricing are on the table and possible. And so we want to consider which of these we need to be thinking about as a company and following. Now, sometimes we're going to change our prices. Several situations may lead a firm to consider cutting prices. Excess capacity, falling demand, weakened economy, strong competition, right? So I have to figure out whether or not I want to change my prices. Maybe the competition is changing it. So the thing is that sometimes when I increase the product, the customer may say, this is the buyer, it's the customer, may say, oh, Rolex made their watches more expensive. It must be more exclusive, and they've added gold flakes to it. Or the customer may think, ooh, they're being greedy, right? These are the thoughts that are potentially in the mind of your customers. If you cut the price, you may say, oh, now I'm getting a better deal. Or the person may say, whoa, they cut their price in half. I don't think that product has very good quality anymore. So these are things that we have to think about. The competition is also watching, right? They may say, oh, they dropped their price, I need to drop my price. Or, oh, that company must be going out of business, they dropped their prices so low. So these are things that you have to consider, which is how are your customers going to think about price changes? And how is your competition going to think about price changes? And this is a kind of chart to get you through how to think about it. So you would ask yourself, has the competitor cut pricing? Then I'm going to continue to, if I say no, then I'm going to just keep monitoring. If I'm going to say yes, I'm going to say, all right, is their price drop going to change the way I do business? No, then I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Yes, then I need to figure out if I should take an action. And these are actions I can take. I can reduce my price, raise the perceived value, improve quality, launch a new low-priced fighter brand. There are different things I can do, and I need to be monitoring this all the time. There are also public policy issues in pricing. So you have to make sure that you're doing everything in a very clear manner. For pricing within channels, for example, federal legislation on price fixing states that sellers must set prices without talking to competition, right? Price fixing is illegal. Companies found guilty of these practices have a lot of fines. For pricing within across channel levels, there are legal issues as well to prevent unfair price discrimination, that sellers offer the same price terms to customers at a given level of trade, and so on and so forth. The point is, you really do want to make sure that you are doing everything in a legal and fair manner. In summation, when a firm considers making changes to the pricing, they have to think about, what are my customers going to respond? How are my customers going to respond? And how is the competition going to respond? There are different implications to initiating price cuts or price increases. And buyer reactions are going to be influenced by how they perceive what they think about the price change, right? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? And competitors' reactions are going to also have a response. And so we want to make sure that we are doing all the research ahead of time as much as possible so that we have the best possible result with our price changes. All right, that was a deep dive into pricing. If you have questions, if you have concerns, if there's something that you're really wondering about, please let me know. I'm here to help. If you need to have a conversation and do a deep dive into something, I'm here to help with that too. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the discussion boards. Thank you.